and today I'm presenting the cognitive and psychodynamic viewpoints and approaches that are used to understand human behaviour. I will delve into history to evaluate the work of key theorists and their significant contributions, which I will correlate with today's key assumptions. Following this, I will discuss therapies before addressing common contemporary issues. Furthermore, I will consider each perspective's strengths and limitations, allowing me to conclude their similarities and differences at the end. Jean Piaget, originating from Switzerland, is the founder of cognitive psychology and is praised for his experimental research on children's cognitive development. In the 1920s, he conducted his conservation of quantity experiment, where he presented a short container and a tall container to children to see if they recognised that, regardless of their appearance, they both held the same amount of liquid. Results revealed that children aged 2 to 7 thought the taller container held more and therefore did not understand conservation. Strengths of this experiment include its ability to reveal participants' understandings of conservation and its simplicity for easy replication to further test reliability. Other than Piaget's own children, it is believed he experimented on well-educated, wealthy children. His lack of cultural, social and economic data limited this experiment. Overlooking such data inhibits a large, diverse range of comparisons and introduces bias. It was one of many of his experiments revealing children's cognitive abilities, ultimately establishing his cognitive development theory. He classified ages 0 to 2 as sensory motor stage, 2 to 7 as pre-operational, 7 to 11 as concrete operational, and 12 and over as formal operational. In 1956, he concluded his three mountain task. After showing children a model of three mountains, he asked them to describe their view and a doll's view from a different angle. Next, they chose a picture from several to better describe its view. Piaget found pre-operational children believed the doll shared their view and that they struggled to differentiate their inner and outside worlds because they assumed everyone saw things the same way as them. He called this trait egocentrism. Like conservation of quantity, it was effective in examining the participants and straightforward for repetition and comparisons. Critics highlight the potential of task instructions being misunderstood and that Piaget's lack of record keeping left little statistical data from his studies, resulting in corrupted outcomes. Nevertheless, further understanding of egocentrism has helped teachers comprehend pre-operational learning, as allowed researchers to study its persistence beyond pre-operation, discovering it indicates autism, in which the trait can follow into adulthood. British psychologist Frederick Bartlett introduced this perception and memory-focused schema concept in the 1930s, claiming that there were static mental frameworks derived from prior experiences and knowledge. Piaget revolutionised Bartlett's concept by incorporating his cognitive development theory, focusing on how children actively construct their world understandings through assimilation and accommodation. Piaget's take on schemas acknowledges flexibility and adaptability, promoting its use as a dynamic tool in cognitive therapies. It introduced active learning and showed how children use and comprehend information in a growing environment. His take is criticised as it derives from his research on small groups that lack participant variety, indicating individual factors weren't considered before reaching his final schema conclusion. Regardless, it widened cognitive therapy methods, enabling cognitive restructuring, which helps people recognise and challenge detrimental thought patterns and improve their well-being. Ulrich Neisser, originating from Germany, is considered the father of psychology for his groundbreaking research and discoveries in cognitive psychology. Neisser and Associate Professor Robert Beckman conducted the selective looking paradigm in 1975. Participants watched 2 videos of sports games on the same screen. They were instructed to focus on one and press a button whenever something significant happened in the other. The unattended video showed a person in a gorilla costume striding across the screen. Most participants did not notice, demonstrating a tendency to disregard visual stimuli and focusing on another. This reinforced Neisser's belief that perception is active and determined by what we choose to focus on. It was a straightforward and simple to repeat experiment, giving a clear demonstration of active perception and laid the groundwork for future research. It is critiqued for its stimuli focus rather than selective looking root causes. Furthermore, its viewing experience was not natural, raising concerns about the generalizability of the results in real life. Discovering perception as an active process enabled psychologists to develop new therapies and treatments assisting people with perception-related disorders, such as sensory processing issues. In his 1976 book Cognition and Reality, he proposed his groundbreaking theory, applying principles from computer science to human cognition. He asserted that the human mind, like a computer, processes information through a series of inputs, outputs, and internal processes. It allowed for easier understanding of cognitive processes using systematic analogy deemed simple enough for non-psychologists to understand. Critics state it oversimplifies complicated cognitive processes, neglecting emotions and motivations, generating a reductionist view of the human mind. Regardless, his computer analogy transformed cognitive psychology by shifting its focus from observable behaviours to internal mental processes. Today's cognitive perspective holds the following assumptions. Piaget's cognitive theory provides structured frameworks that allow early identification of cognitive abnormalities, promoting faster interventions, diagnoses, and treatments. Children and adults with egocentrism can learn skills for developing interest and understanding in other people's hobbies and points of view, resulting in healthier attitudes and relationships. Schema activation is initiated by perception, which is active and based on what we choose to focus on. And schemas are scripts comprising a series of expectations from past experiences that serve as an interpretive tool for identifying and reconstructing personality and behaviour. In accordance with Neisser's computer analogy, our outcomes, being our behaviours, are the results of our coding, being our mental frameworks. And they can be changed in the same way a computer coder can make changes to the coding behind a computer program in order to achieve different outcomes. Cognitive therapies used today include cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, and schema therapy, ST. Negative thinking and its influence on emotions and behaviour are the primary objectives of CBT. It helps people establish strategies to manage current challenges such as work-related stress, relationship breakups, and bereavement. Criticisms of CBT include its dismissal of childhood events and their lasting impacts. Additionally, its frequent use of artificial stimuli limits its real-life generalisability beyond specific experimental settings. ST is essentially an expanded version of CBT, however, it places a stronger emphasis on identifying and addressing underlying schemas. It is used to provide relief from disorders of substance use, obsessive-compulsive, and post-traumatic stress. Both therapies are scientific approaches due to their evidence-based nature and systematic methodology. They are short-term treatments, with CBT lasting 5 to 20 sessions and ST lasting 30 to 50 sessions. The cognitive perspective has many strengths. Its soft determinist position maintains that choices are influenced by numerous factors in cognitive processes, but they are not entirely bound, permitting some degree of free will. It values nature and nurture by identifying environmental and inherent factors. Its focus on present-day experiences impacts the behaviour and mood in the moment, helping people actively break down and understand their situation. Its practical applicability lies in its clear frameworks in cognitive development and schemas, which are widely used by teachers and clinicians. Its holistic approach entails consideration of cognitive process interaction with numerous internal and external factors, resulting in a richer picture of an individual. Its short-term therapy efficiently interprets current issues, offering coping mechanisms to adjust a person's state during present-day stressful events. Its structure in identifying and challenging negative thought patterns in order to replace them with helpful ones promotes long-term recovery. And lastly, its scientific studies are based on controlled lab experiments, making the data more reliable and simple to replicate. The cognitive perspective also has some limitations. It dismisses childhood experiences, and its use of artificial stimuli in experiments lowers its ecological validity. Sigmund Freud, originating from Austria, is the founder of the psychoanalytic theory and talking therapy. He invented the free association technique in the early 1890s to facilitate and encourage venting without filters. He found that people revealed their repressed traumas, memories, and inner conflicts through their personalities and behaviours. Free association generated many strengths. It revolutionised the psychodynamic approach by providing mental health alleviation. It helped people grow personally and find long-term emotional solutions, enhancing their mental health and emotional well-being. Limitations include the possibility of clients resisting the technique or actively censoring their thoughts, resulting in inaccuracies in therapy and results. It is also open to subjective interpretation and lacks empirical data to support its effectiveness. In 1909, he conducted a famous study on a boy called Little Hans with a horse phobia, whose father claimed arose from seeing a horse fall and die at a market. Freud concluded his phobia actually came from his inner issues relating to his father, whom he was competing with for the affection of his mother. He compared the situation to the old Greek myth of Oedipus, who accidentally killed his father and married his mother. The case resulted in Freud establishing the Oedipus complex, which he defined as a child having feelings of a desire for an opposite-sex parent and having hostility towards a same-sex parent. His comprehensive and detailed analysis of Hans, showcased in his extensive record-keeping, supported the case's legitimacy. Limitations include its subjectivity to bias analysis and its sole focus on one child, making it difficult to generalise its findings to a larger, diverse scale of children. Nevertheless, it inspired further parent-child theories, for instance the attachment theory, which asserts a child's bond quality with their carer affects their further social development in adolescence and adulthood. In the 1920s, Freud introduced his tripartite personality concept. The id represents basic instinctual drives such as pleasure-seeking and instant fulfillment, manifesting in impulsive behaviours and dreams. The ego represents a mediator between its desires and the external world, which attempts to satisfy needs realistically and appropriately. The superego represents a self-critical conscience formed by moral norms and cultural expectations, which can cause feelings of guilt if disobeyed. Freud's model of personality has led to a better understanding of how this trio influences thoughts and feelings, and their surface through behaviour, personality, and Freudian slips, which are slips of the tongue. It also raises awareness of childhood events by highlighting their impact on the trio. Critics highlight the lack of evidence proving its existence due to its inability to be scientifically tested and its indication of people having little opportunity of choice due to being influenced by their past experiences and unconscious forces. Today, it is one of several Freudian human psyche concepts studied in psychodynamic therapies required for diagnosing and treating personality disorders. Carl Jung, originating from Sweden, contributed to psychodynamic psychology by incorporating concepts of spirituality and complexes of the personal unconscious. His interest in the invisible and spiritual realm arose from watching his mentally ill mother experience episodes throughout his childhood that she described as mystical. His hardest experiment, The Red Book, was published in 1930. It comprises self-experimentation on the inner mind, active imagination and dreams, elaborated with mystical and dark illustrations. He claimed the spiritual realm communicated with him through symbolic image mind projections and that he interacted with his soul through active imagination and dreams. This experiment helped him construct the persona, shadow, anima and self archetypes. Readers benefit from incredibly intimate and profound insights into his thinking. It also introduced creative outlets for surfacing the unconscious such as journaling, drawing and painting, which aid in self-discovery, treatment and relief. It is critiqued for relying heavily on Jung's subjective interpretations and experiences. Critics argue that Jung may have been experiencing a psychotic episode or a period of personal crisis and spiritual struggle, casting doubt on his studies and outcomes. Today's psychodynamic approach makes use of the experiment's strengths through using Jung's findings as a foundation for beliefs. Furthermore, his creative outlets are integrated into therapies. In 1909, Jung invented the word association test, which entails prompting words to people to assess their reactions and response times. He found it a useful tool to trigger and evoke past memories in order to unravel a person's unconscious to further understand their behaviour and responses. The test's core strength lies in its ability to bypass conscious control and tap into the unconscious mind, revealing hidden thoughts, feelings and complexes that might not surface in ordinary conversation. Limitations include the potential for bias or subjective interpretation and incorrect results from inconsistent information recording. Tests are still useful nowadays. Other than psychologists, it is commonly used by law enforcement to determine a person's authenticity and involvement in a crime. Today's psychodynamic perspective holds the following assumptions. Talking therapy using free association provides a safe environment for people to vent and discuss their past experiences, emotions and dreams, allowing for a better understanding and explanation of personalities and behaviours. It allows pattern recognition, manifestation study and more detailed case studies, promoting accuracy in interpretations, diagnosis and treatments. Childhood traumas persist in adulthood and shape adult personality and behaviour. Improper nurturing is likely to cause improper adulthood fixation, significantly affecting a person's mental, emotional and physical state. Coping mechanisms build resilience to past trauma's effects. People have little free will due to predeterminations of the unconscious mind. People have protection barriers and strategies between anxieties and conflicted thoughts and desires, called defence mechanisms. Dreams are an avenue for unconscious rise, allowing for correlation, analysis and understanding. And derived from the Red Book, experiences of spirits or ghosts are the unconscious mind's symbolic language, showing projections of inner disturbances, anxieties and desires. Today's psychodynamic therapies use techniques such as free association, transference and dream analysis. Transference refers to a person's intense attitudes, feelings and beliefs towards your therapist, which are typically the result of past traumas. The therapist examines common patterns and conflicts to help patients become aware of their unconscious projections so they can work through them. Dream interpretation examines REM brain activity to reveal connections between emotions, memories, wishes and defences. Psychodynamic therapy aims to help people understand the factors contributing to their beliefs and behaviours to uncover and establish mental health coping mechanisms and solutions. Unlike more empirically based therapies, psychodynamic therapy focuses on exploring unconscious motivations and unresolved conflicts, which are often difficult to measure or prove. Furthermore, it is heavily reliant on subjective interpretations and introspection rather than objective evidence, which are primary reasons for its non-scientific classification. It is a long-term treatment lasting anywhere from 16 to 120 sessions. The psychodynamic perspective has many strengths. It embraces nature and nurture, asserting that while people are born with natural urges and instincts, their personalities and behaviours are significantly shaped by their childhood experiences and environmental factors. Its holistic approach takes a broad view of an individual's psychological makeup rather than focusing on one component, allowing for customised therapy solutions. Focusing on childhood highlights the importance of early interactions and events on adult behaviour and personality development, helping explain underlying causes. Its practical applicability lies in widely used psychological techniques such as free association, the word association test, transference, and dream analysis. Lastly, addressing psychological issues' root causes rather than merely their symptoms enables customised coping techniques that enhance long-term recovery and relapse prevention. The psychodynamic perspective also has limitations. The unconscious mind cannot be measured scientifically, which raises skepticism about its theory. It is hard determinism, as it asserts adult behaviour is primarily driven by childhood experiences and unconscious forces that are outside of a person's conscious control, leaving very little to no room for free will. It overemphasises the past, ignoring experiences beyond childhood. It heavily relies on case studies of individuals comprising unique issues, making it difficult to generalise the findings to wide population and everyday situations, which lowers its ecological validity. All the while, treatment is long-term. Ethical dilemmas exist in both cognitive and psychodynamic therapies. Therapists have a duty to report clients who they believe pose a risk of harming themselves or those around them, causing clients to fear disclosure, which either prolongs or completely inhibits further help. Revisiting disturbing past experiences increases the risk of re-traumatization, which entails re-encountering mental and physical challenges from those experiences. Due to the nature of the therapies, charged emotions can pose a high risk of boundary violations, including contact outside therapy times, inappropriate requests, and sexual advances. Other shared issues include non-observable phenomena from indirect measurements and the interplay of cognitive impairments such as dementia and brain damage, increasing complexity in determining diagnoses. Both perspectives share similarities in strengths and limitations. In strengths, they both focus on internal processes and their influence on behaviour. However, they differ in what these processes entail. They agree that nature and nurture, whether conscious or unconscious, play a role in shaping human behaviour. They examine mental health and life experiences holistically, and they promote long-term recovery. Similarities and limitations include their high risk of ethical dilemmas calling morality into question, potentially tainting outcomes, and their low ecological validity. Their primary distinction lies in their theory. The cognitive perspective is built on concepts focusing on the present and conscious mental processes, such as rational decision-making and problem-solving, whereas the psychodynamic perspective is built on concepts focusing on the past, how it shapes behaviour, and unconscious motives. Cognitive psychology ignores childhood experience impacts, and psychodynamic psychology overemphasises it, ignoring present experience impacts. The cognitive perspective is soft determinist, whereas the psychodynamic perspective is hard determinist. The cognitive perspective depends on scientific evidence, making it objective, whereas the psychodynamic perspective depends on therapist interpretations, making it subjective. The cognitive perspective uses scientific methods, including observations and experiments, whereas the psychodynamic perspective's non-scientific methods includes case studies. Lastly, cognitive therapies are short-term and psychodynamic therapies are long-term. Out of the 10 topics discussed in the previous strength and limitation charts, there are 5 differences and 5 similarities in comparison. The extra similarity comes from their ethical dilemmas, making the final total 6. We have now come to the end of the presentation. Both perspectives have been discussed and evaluated, and their similarities and differences have been identified. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask.